Hello and welcome to a Lotus 3, the ultimate challenge. I'm not entirely sure what it is that's supposed to be a challenge, but for me it was my patience. I'm saying that up front, just to get it out of the way. The setup screen looks deceptively similar to Lotus II, except for the constructor Rex down the bottom left side. The big draw of Lotus 3 was the fact that you could design your own tracks, courses, whatever. Sort of. Not entirely true actually, but we'll get back to that towards the end of this video. Of changes made to the setup screen, we had a choice between doing point-to-point races or enclosed track races with laps instead of point-to-point. Unlike the first game, which was lap races only, and the second game, which was point-to-point only. Another thing added to Lotus 3 was the choice of cars. The original Lotus III, the Elan SE, and the, as far as I know, brand new at the time, M200. No chance to change the car once chosen though, so... And of course, returning from the original Lotus was the CD player, the in-game CD player. For me personally, outside of track 3, which is the game title music, I didn't find any of them overly enjoyable, so I, for the purpose of recording this video, decided to just stick with the sound effects. I know it's taking some time to switch between the CD tracks, or in-game CD tracks I should say, but loading from floppy, yeah, that is the way it goes back in the good old floppy days. I suppose before we knew that it wasn't unbearable, but well, I did. I have not always been, but for most of the time been a hard disk user when I was back in the heyday of the Amiga. So, let us get into the first track on easy difficulty in Lotus 3. And I still remember seeing that load screen and thinking, please no, not patchwork. And lo and behold, we're getting a patchwork. Yeah. Sean Sutton and Andrew Morris were responsible for the brilliant game called Trailblazer on the Commodore 64 and possibly other computers, I wouldn't know. A game I've covered on my channel, a brilliant little enjoyable game that I absolutely adore. Simple, harmless fun. In that game, the patchwork is perfectly fine. In Lotus, it isn't. I'm not entirely sure why they went for this pattern design for Lotus 3. Don't know whether it was because of the course designer or it's because of them wanting to give an additional sense of speed. I have no idea. The effect is a lot more subtle in Lotus and Lotus 2. And they still feel like they're driving just as fast. In two-player mode, I would actually argue that this one feels like it's tanking compared to the two other games, but Lotus III Turbo Challenge was absolutely an amazing game when it came out, but it had a few flaws. First and foremost, when you were playing by yourself, the split screen was still up, so you only had half the screen, even though you were playing alone. Secondly, if you smacked into something, you lost all your speed, which is probably a very realistic thing, but for a game it wasn't very enjoyable. Because of course, losing all your speed meant you had to re-accelerate, and then the car came from behind, smacked into you, you lost all your speed, you had to re-accelerate, and so on. on hard level, the last 3 tracks, if you had any accidents at all, you could forget about qualifying, much less winning in Lotus. So in Lotus 2, those things were rectified. Playing by yourself, you still got the full screen, and while bumping into things cost you some speed, it wasn't game breaking. Unless you did it consistently, then you would lose too much time. A good balance between the two. Lotus 3, according to reviews, took the best parts of Lotus 1 and Lotus II and made it into a little joyous amalgamation. My opinion is very, very different, unfortunately. After each stage you have to load the result screen, which is one thing, I mean that's fair enough, but then you also have to load the CD player, so you can spend more time loading tracks if you want to change music, which means that you have pointless loading. I suppose it's options, but for me personally, even back then, it was just more pointless loading. So I'm just going to do a few quick cuts of some of the other stages in on easy difficulty level, just to give you a taste of the different looks of the different tracks and a few gimmicks. This one I'm not a fan of the color selection, not at all. It makes me feel sickly, which is a bit harsh, but it's the truth. The foggy stage, which is nicked from Lotus II stage 3. This one only got right hand turns, and while it's very cool that you can see the lamps on the cars, or lights on the cars I should say, it's just a bit bleh. This one is a gimmicky stage where you got the wind howling across the track. It's a nice little touch, you can actually hear the wind pick up, and when it's at full strength you will have to counter steer quite a bit to not get blown off the track. But all in all, a bit gimmicky. So let's get into the track constructor. It's not. You set parameters for how you want a track, and then the game will design the track based on your parameters. And for the purpose of this video I just decided to go completely wonky just to see the final result of doing so. I don't know why I just didn't enjoy Lotus 3. I think it is because Lotus 2 in my opinion is possibly the best arcade racer on Amiga, and Lotus 3 would have to deliver something special to live up to that legacy. And while reviewers were saying it took the best parts of both games, I felt it took the most boring parts. The gimmicky things added to it for me didn't do anything at all. This stage, for instance, I mean the motorway stage in Lotus 2, you drove in the left hand side of the track because of course I mean the password for that stage is Liverpool, and it made perfect sense. It was released by an English company, programmed by a team that as far as I know is English, and for some bizarre reason you drive on the right hand side in this version. It's a minor thing, but it's just one of those little things that adds up. I don't hate Lotus 3, I just don't enjoy it either. I would play Lotus 1 regularly, not, I mean, within reason of course, and I would play Lotus 2 more regularly, but Lotus 3, I wouldn't have missed it if it was never made. That's the way I feel about this game. Yeah. It just feels like someone got the idea of taking Lotus and throw a lot of gimmicks into it and say, this makes for a great game. I could have done without it, easily. So, not unhappy, not happy, just right slam bang in the middle. And on that note, I'm going to say thanks for watching, take care, and see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.